are back! Home of the prodigal son, young Chad Townsend. And Chad Townsend plays on, plays to the whistle, kicks away for Valentine home. Townsend, brilliant.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Chad Townsend Show. If you're new here, please make sure you do subscribe. It really is greatly appreciated. If you're listening over on the audio platforms, a quick rate and review means a lot to the podcast. And obviously, if you're watching here on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button down below. Like this video. Just going to wait for you to do that right now. Very, very quickly. And thank you very, very much. We are slowly approaching to 50K. We're nearly at 50K. So obviously that's a pretty big milestone for the YouTube channel. We want to keep that going. We want to go to the moon. So let's see how we go. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Obviously, plenty happening in the wonderful world of rugby league. And before we do get into that, let's bring him in. Victor, how are you?
Good, mate. It's good to be back. We had a week off.
We did. We had a week off. I've been in Fiji. Bulla, Vanaka.
Bulla.
Fiji Gold all week.
Yes, sir. How many drinks a day?
To be honest, I actually drank every single day that I was there, and like proper relaxed. Like when you go on holiday, when I went on holidays over the course of my career, now that I'm retired, you always have like pre-season in the back of your mind. So I was like, you can relax, but you can't really relax.
Yeah.
So this is the first holiday ever I've like switched off mentally. I trained. I was there for 10 days. I trained 4 times, but like I ate whatever I wanted. I drank pretty much every day. I drank 1,000 beers. I was drinking seltzers on the golf course as well. I played golf 3 times. I played with my kids once on the golf course. It was amazing. We had a cracker time.
Retired Chad is here.
Retired life is here. This is the first official day of work, not as an NRL player.
How's it feel?
It feels a bit weird, to be honest. I just put a post on like my LinkedIn because now that I'm like, I've got to be career orientated on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn now, so
hit him up on the LinkedIn.
It's a very different sort of, I guess, social network, LinkedIn. But I guess you kind of got to be on there, a bit more professional and whatever. But yeah, I'm excited. Like, obviously, for people who may not know, you get paid pretty much at the halfway mark or at the end of every month as an NRL player. And the 31st of October was my last pay ever as an NRL player. I got my pay slip, and yeah, now it's just like you're on your own now.
You're gonna have to show us one of those pay slips. We're gonna have to go through.
You know what? I'm gonna make a vlog. I've got an NRL contract at home, and I'll bring it in and I'll make a vlog on the whole contract. What's in the contract? I'll show everyone. Because actually last week, let's quickly touch on that. We had the Marty interview, and I put the vlog out about my body. Both went excellent. Were awesome. So I was super, super stoked to hear you guys enjoy. Obviously, Marty's interview, Victor, was cracker.
We loved filming that.
I
remember talking to you like 2 weeks ago after we filmed it. I'm like, this is going to blow.
It was amazing. He was awesome. And obviously, the massive thing was around how his career finished and getting released from the Broncos, which was kind of the most trending thing. Obviously, it kind of went viral as well. Fox League picked it up. A Daily Mail picked it up. A host of other news outlets picked up the story, quotes, which is just great to see. And that's the type of stuff that we have planned for you guys more in the future with regards to some interviews and some content, which we'll get out a bit of a schedule for everyone, as the weeks kind of roll on. But the content's going up. The content's going up. It's going up. And we have a huge announcement, which I think will be coming out next week for you guys with our major sponsor of the podcast moving forward, which we're really excited to announce and share with you guys. So, look, it's going to be really exciting times moving forward. The content's going up. It's all around pretty much the 2 best sports in the world, football and a little bit of golf. A little bit of golf content as well, but mainly just footy content. And that golf content is like interviewing about football, so while playing golf, which is fun and relaxing, and obviously our own content around rugby league as well.
I thought you were going to say NFL there.
NFL, it is one of my top 3 favorite sports. I'd say my top 3 are footy, golf, then NFL. They're probably my top 3.
Yep, that's fair.
What about you? What's your top 3?
I got to add soccer in there, football.
Yeah, I don't.
NRL,
I'm
golf,
not a soccer guy.
soccer, EPL,
Yeah.
NBA. NBA's up there.
Yeah, I
you
like
watch much
NBA,
of the
but I don't really watch that much of it, to be honest.
I've been loving watching Wembanyama tear
Yeah.
up the league.
Apparently, he's been killing it.
Absolute freak. But back to the rugby.
Back
Football.
to the rugby league. All right, let's have a look at what we got on today's show. We got what's trending in the NRL. We react to some of the biggest news and what's been happening over the last week. Australia have won the Ashes. Obviously, the 3-game series, Australia go up 2-0 in that. New Zealand versus Tonga over the weekend, the Pacific champs. Tonga eliminated from the final. We have a look at that New Zealand win over Tonga. Big win for New Zealand. November 1, free agency. We'll have a quick look at that. We've got 6 again. New segment on the podcast. We've got 6 questions which we've come up with, and there's a question in here which I'm sure you guys will want to stay for, because this is probably the number one question I get asked. People commenting on my social media about that hit on Kalen Ponga. And I'm going to address it today. So make sure you stay tuned for that later in the podcast, because I'm going to go into it in a bit of detail and finally speak about the whole situation. But yeah, let's move on to what's trending over the course of the weekend. And we're going to start with the big story over the weekend, which was Australia win the Ashes 2-0 over in England. Now, this game obviously played these stadiums that these guys are playing with over there, like Wembley Stadium, Hill Dickinson Stadium, like, the scenes are absolutely phenomenal.
Unreal, hey.
English, like, they can't play footy, but geez, they create a spectacle of, like, an amazing theatre, like fireworks, flags, everywhere. The scenes before the game were, like, amazing, absolutely incredible. And obviously the national anthem, now this is a pretty, I guess you'd call it like a pretty serious security breach. Jarvo, this guy's name is, who's renowned for jumping the fence in full kit, dressing up in full kit, and joining teams' national anthems. Now, this guy's a serial pest. He's done it with the All Blacks before, and he done it with the Australian Kangaroos on the weekend. Obviously, they're all lined up, arm in arm, about to sing the national anthem, and Jarvo comes in and stands on the end of the line, puts his arm around Cameron Munster and then other arm on the chest to cover the heart, and they sing the national anthem. Like, what do we think of that? It's absolutely crazy.
It's crazy. It's, as a player, is that scary for you as a player? Obviously, he's probably not going to do anything.
Yeah, I
too
mean,
serious,
like,
but
I wouldn't say it's scary because, like, you know, obviously there's the major security breach that he could actually do something to a player. To have access to a player at that moment before the game is, like, pretty serious.
Yeah.
Like, no one has access to players before the game except inner sanctum, team, staff. You know, you're supposed to put your phone away like an hour before kickoff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty serious, but at the end of the day, like, it's pretty funny as well.
Yeah, it's pretty jokes.
I don't know. I assume this guy got arrested and charged and
he got
fined.
arrested the other day.
You know, like, it's a pretty serious breach. But in saying that, if this guy went on, like, GoFundMe and created a GoFundMe to pay for his fine, people would probably donate for his fine because they find it funny. But pretty serious.
Pretty serious, but money letting him in pretty.
Yeah,
Pretty playing for money.
Munster just fully embracing him as well. And then obviously Munster would go on to win man of the match, and he got asked about it in the press conference as well. And he sort of just, I think he said it was like Kevy's cousin or something like that. He was sort of played it off as a bit of a joke. But it was pretty funny. Before we get into the game, one of the things I noticed about the field was, like, the lack of lines on the field. Like, if you watch, like, the highlights or the replays or whatever, you can see there's no actual, like, lines. Like, obviously see, like, no lines on the field. So, like, the no 20, couldn't see the 40, couldn't see really anything but halfway. Obviously, it's a soccer field, so you see the circle, and then you saw, like, the faded line of the box. And I was like, what's doing? This is, like, test match football. I want to be able to see where the lines are. Like, I want to be able to see if my guy goes for a 40-20, if he's inside 40. And, you know, I don't know. I thought that was, like...
That was weird. I think there was, like, real faded 40 and 20 lines.
Yeah.
Maybe a 40 and 20 line.
Mm.
But they were not massively visible.
Yeah, and I saw a stat somewhere on Instagram that the length of the field was actually shorter or smaller than the field at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And we all obviously know that's a little bit of a smaller field as well. So, look, I mean, they made it work, but obviously I would have, as a footy nerd, footy guy, big footy guy, I would have liked to see more lines on the field. But let's get into the game, hey? It was on, early on. Tino and Dom Young went to the bin early for that little scuffle in back play, a bit of push and shove. Referee Chris Atkins, I think it was, with the yellow card.
Yep.
Straight up yellow card, which we don't really have or see in the NRL. It's just like 10 in the bin.
I kind of like the yellow card.
I like yellow card too. I mean, you like it because you're a soccer guy.
It.
You like it because you're a soccer guy. I like it just because it's like, I don't know, it's just like so in your face. You've just been shown something. But like, to me, the 10 fingers in the bin is just so iconic. How many times do you see a referee where he's just like that in your face and everyone's just knowing, all the fans are like, 10 in the bin, whatever. But it will never change. But I don't know. I thought the yellow card was cool to see, you know, on an international scale. Some of the signs early on, well, you know, to me, the English had their chances early on in this game. They had a lot more ball and a bit of pressure on the Aussies' goal line. But like the defensive efforts of Reece Walsh has been standout. And we've spoken about Reece Walsh and his attacking prowess over, you know, the last 2 months. But some of his try saves, especially in the grand final, and his cover defence in the second Ashes game, where he was just, every time England sort of had that slight overlap, Reece Walsh was there, making contact, forcing errors, like saving tries. And on one occasion, he was getting up and like completely pumped up. And that's where he's at right now. Like, he's at that stage where, you know, he's making big plays on both sides of the ball. You want to be a player where obviously you get paid on how you attack, right? No one really gets paid on, like, defense. There's no money in tackling, right? But to see Reece Walsh putting that time and effort into his defense, I think has been outstanding, and saving those tries has been so impressive. Then for the English, well, Morgan Knowles, he was unlucky not to score after Reece Walsh couldn't clean that grubber kick from George Williams early on. That would have potentially changed the trajectory of the game, obviously, because the first half, I mean, obviously there was penalties and, you know, penalty goals, and the halftime score was 4-4, like 2 penalty goals each. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, am I watching rugby union here, or what's actually doing? Like, because every time they get a penalty in rugby, they just go the penalty kick. But anyway, obviously Aussies came out in the second half, and Munster did what Munster does, skips across field, he shows. He did seem to run around Angus Crichton.
Was it a shepherd? Yeah,
well, I know James Graham on the commentary, like, he was blowing up. Like, he wasn't happy with it. He was like, that's a shepherd every day of the week. You see in the NRL, they just stop. And I don't know, like, because Angus Crichton, if you watch it again, like, he actually gets through the line. He doesn't impact anyone. You know, he doesn't just stop and take out a defender. So, look, I was okay with the decision, obviously.
Non-biased decision.
This is my non-biased decision. For real, like, I'm not being biased. I am Australian, but I don't think it impacted the play. Like, they had chances to stop the play and make the play, but they weren't able to.
Does that lead runner not have an effect on the defense, though?
No. Well, it's just like his timing was just probably a bit off, and, you know, Munster probably didn't even know that he was going to dummy and sort of do that run. Munster doesn't really know what he's doing most of the time. He just does it. And that's the best thing about his game. Obviously, he runs the ball like a lock forward nowadays, you know, with the amount of carries that he has. But, yeah, was it a shepherd? I don't think so. The Aussies would go on, and then Hudson Young, he scored that try off the bat back, off the kick. I think it was Staggs got up. Mark went up as well. Staggs got the tap back, and Hudson Young was in great position, picked up the scraps, went around and scored. And late in the game, Reece Walsh had that hit on Dom Young where they were in the air, and he got sent to the sin bin. And I thought he's hard done by. Again, Like, I'm not saying that just because I'm Aussie, but I don't know. If you watch the replay, especially one from the back corner, like he has both arms up, like trying to make a play. He's not like leaning in with a dropped like shoulder.
I thought that shoulder was down when I saw it.
I don't know. To me, I don't know, we'll have to have another look. But I just feel like his both hands are like there and he's coming in to contest. But like obviously it was pretty big contact, you know what I mean? Yeah. Dom Young got like...
Yeah, he got hit.
He got hit. Not as hard as Eli Katoa, by the way, which we hope Eli Katoa's okay. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, it was a pretty tough call. The game was kind of over by that moment anyway. Reece Walsh comes back on. Aussies win the Ashes.
Yep.
So,
is the broom coming out?
Is the broom coming out? Well, that's a great question. I think it is. And if you remember back to our predictions, pre-Ashes, all right, Victor reckoned it was going to be 3-0. You were pretty savage in your predictions, weren't you?
Mate, I'm just seeing what I saw.
And I sort of said 2-1. So it's on, you and I. It comes down to game 3.
To game 3.
And obviously, you know, like I saw there was a question out now around, now that the Ashes, the series is over, obviously there's guys in the squad, Blake Brayley, Dylan Edwards, Ethan Strange, Mitch Moses, Jacob Preston, to name a few, who haven't played yet, obviously, because you're trying to play your best team and win the series. But now the series is over. Do those guys get a game now? And to me, like, I don't think Kev plays them.
That's brutal.
No, like it might be brutal, but it's like, I don't know. I just feel like to play for an Australian jersey, like those guys who I just said, they'll get their chance next year at the World Cup. Because the World Cup, you play more games, you play against teams who are much, much lower ranked, where you can play your second string team to give you guys a rest because you need to save them for later in the tournament. But I just think let's go for the kill. Let's put a statement on England and say, you guys need to pick up your act because we're the best team in the world. We're going for the clean sweep.
I think it'll be more of a statement if and when we win with the
with
players
the backups.
Played.
Yeah, I mean that is a good shout, but I don't know. I just like if I want to see Harry Grant play again.
Yeah,
you know, I want to see Nathan Cleary and Cameron Munster play again. Like that's just what I feel. I don't feel like, you know, to put Mitch Moses in, you take out obviously Cleary or Munster at the moment with the way they've played in the last 2 weeks and what they've done. And I'm sure those guys will want to play game 3. They'll want a clean sweep. They'll want to focus on finishing the tour, you know, as a successful one. So who knows? That's just what I think may happen. And yeah, for England, I mean, what's the go for England now? Because obviously, you know, it was always going to be a tough ask for them, I thought, this, you know, to win against Australia. And obviously the Ashes hasn't happened for 20 years. You know, and the things that they need to improve on, like I just feel over the first 2 games, their forward pack, like they lacked intensity over the course of the whole game. Excuse me. They were very physical, you know, in the first 5 or 10 minutes. But like every team that plays is physical in the first 5 or 10 minutes. So I just feel like they need to improve on that. Like you look at the like for like, you know, forward pack or teams, for example, there's not one English player that would probably start in the Australian team, in my opinion.
Where do you think England ranks now with Australia, Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand? I think that's all. Yeah, that is a great question. And I love that we get to talk about this now because of what's happened with international rugby league, especially in the Pacific and Tonga and Samoa. But my top 4 teams in the world right now, I've got to go Australia, number 1, New Zealand, number 2. I'll go Samoa, number 3.
England number 4 and Tonga 5 at the moment. I think so.
I probably would have had Tonga over England if they.
So you'd have Tonga at 4 and England at 5?
If they showed a bit more of this specific chance.
Yeah, that's why I put them at 5,
Yeah,
just because
I
obviously to
agree
go 2 losses, like their loss yesterday was quite significant. But yeah, like I love Tonga. I'm a Tongan fan, you know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of potential there, but there's also a lot of improvement in their team across the board.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, for sure, which we will get to. But back on England, like I just look at some of their, like obviously Brimson was brought in for the second game. You know, some of their players, their best players, or the players who play in the NRL. So like Brimson, Farnworth, Smithies, Dong Young, and Kai Pearce-Paul.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I like it's hard because I feel like these guys need to be like their best players. You know what I mean? And obviously there's George Williams apparently signed to come on to the Dolphins, back to the Dolphins for next year. Like I don't know what's actually happening there, if that's going to actually happen. But yeah, like there's no doubt that English rugby league, it's not as good as Australian rugby league.
It shows.
And obviously, like the Super League and the NRL, like they're on different levels. But yeah, England have a lot of improvement. Like, and I love Sean Wayne as a coach. I'm a big fan of Sean Wayne, the way he speaks to his players, how passionate he is as a coach. It's not about me just putting a heap of shit on England. Like I like the Super League. I think there's some fantastic players in England, but defensively as well, like they weren't able to withstand the Australian attack. And respectfully, who is? These are the best players in the world, like Reece Walsh, Nathan Cleary, Cameron Munster, Harry Grant. You know, and then you got the finishers on the wings, Mark Nwangani-Tawase, Fox, Addo Carr, the season he's had. So look, there's some big names in that Aussie team, but then respectfully in that English team, there's some not so big names, you know, who don't have that impact or aura that the Aussie guys have. So, look, there's some big improvements. A massive congratulations to Kevin Walters, the Aussie Kangaroos team. Let's hope they go 3-0. I did pick them to go win the series 2-1, and Victor picked 3-0. So
we'll see next week.
We'll see next week on the pod, and we'll address that. And loser, I mean, I want Australia to win. But if my prediction's right, you get coffees next Monday, and if your prediction's right, you get coffee. All right, sweet. All right, let's move on to the next game. New Zealand versus Samoa. Now, this crowd, pat yourselves on the back, because this crowd and this atmosphere was absolutely phenomenal. The scenes coming out of Eden Park were...
Sorry, just to correct you, it was New Zealand, Tonga.
What did I say?
Samoa.
Oh, how did I get that wrong? New Zealand, Tonga. The scenes coming out of Eden Park were absolutely amazing. The sea of red, didn't see much black in the crowd, just saw the sea of red, but it was absolutely amazing. The haka and the sippy towel, awesome. Gosh, I just love watching that stuff. Some pretty crazy scenes before kickoff, though, in the Tongan camp with Eli Katoa colliding with Lehigh Hopewadi going for a ball, and Eli Katoa's like his eyes on the ball. Lehigh comes in, and then Eli Katoa, like Lehigh jumps up, Eli Katoa just hits his shoulder, and like, man, he looks like he's knocked out cold
straight away
in the warm up. Looks like he's knocked out cold, and obviously this is in the warm up. This is crazy. I don't know if he's going to do a HIA because it's happened in the warm up. But Ellie then would later go on in the game to get more head knocks throughout the game. Would later have to leave on a Medicab with oxygen. Now, I saw an update from Eli Katoa earlier this morning saying that he's okay. He appreciates everyone for reaching out to him and that he's fine. And he's obviously on the mend. But, yeah, it didn't look good for the big fella, you know.
I think it's an interesting one because, like you said, if it was because it was a warm-up that he doesn't get a HIA,
Yeah.
Because if that type of head knock happens during the game, he's not coming back on.
No. I mean, and obviously, I didn't see in the warm-up, obviously you see all the highlights in the pre-game and everything, but you don't know how long has he stayed on the ground for? You know, did he get up and stumble? Like, we don't know those facts, you know what I mean? So I guess you can only address it on the severity of what it looked like in that video, and it looked awful. Like, it looked like massive contact. And, you know, I really hope he's okay and, you know, he's on the mend, but it was crazy. The exchanges in this game, especially at the start, like fast and physical game. Kieran Foran almost had a try early on, but it was called a forward pass, and Blocker on the Fox League called it a line ball. And I had to laugh, Blocker. I didn't think it was a line ball, and Vossi was like, Blocker, that's forward. And I was like, yep, I agree with Vossi. So it would have been good to see the veteran get over and score. I think he's only scored one try for the Kiwis in a couple, maybe 30-odd test matches. But it wasn't until sort of after both teams kind of went back and forth for the majority of the first half, and, you know, it was end-to-end, it was exciting, but it wasn't until the young fullback who the Kiwis made a late change and brought Keanu Kinney into the game, into the starting side, moved Chance to the centres, and wow, the footwork on Kinney to set up McLean down the left edge. And if you get a chance to watch this again, watch Kinney just go fast and straight. He goes in and away, boom, off the right, beats this defender, gets to the next defender on the outside, brings in Sikione Katoa, and then passes to McLean. So what the defence wants to do in that situation is they want to compress the line and sort of almost bait you to go around them, because it's obviously much more risky to pass, you know, when you're in that area of the field. But Kinney, because of his footwork and his speed, was just able to absolutely just school all of them. Gets on his outside, brings in Katoa, puts McLean away down the sideline. McLean done a good job as well, holding his width in that position, not crowding Kinney, just holding his width and let Kinney do the work. And then obviously McLean, the speedster, gets down on the outside. Kinney pushes up through the middle. McLean does the rest, draws and pass back to Kinney, and then Kinney scores that incredible try. I thought he was outstanding. Look, I'm really excited to see Keanu Kinney, you know, in the Titans' new phase and how he plays. Obviously, he only played a handful of games this year with a back injury as well. So keep an eye on him for the Gold Coast next season. Let's move on. Dylan Brown scored a try next to the post. Obviously, this is probably, again, people have been speaking about how well Dylan Brown's been playing. That try next to the post was absolutely amazing. Just run through it, see the space, boom. He's a big boy, Dylan Brown. So, you know, if I am the Newcastle Knights,
I was just about to ask you this.
Ask me the question. Go.
As a Knights fan for next season, how excited are you to see Dylan Brown?
Yeah, look, if I'm a Knights fan, like I'm very, very excited. Like, I mean, obviously a lot happened with Dylan Brown this year and his time at Parramatta, but the form he's had in the last couple of weeks playing for New Zealand, you see how much it means to him. You see how fired up he is, like, in the way that he played. Obviously, that try next to the post on the weekend. He then had another try assist, another pass to Chance. He's playing with confidence at the moment. And look, if he's obviously there for like the next 10 years in Newcastle. So you're going to get a guy, at least when he rocks up to preseason training, he'll go back early. He won't go back. He won't have his full time off. Like, I guarantee it. He'll go back early. He'll be fired up with a point to prove. Like, because there'll be so many eyeballs on him and people saying, oh, they shouldn't have signed him for a 10-year deal and whatever. Like, he will just be so motivated to shut those people up. And I think the form we've seen him play with in the Pacific Championships, that's going to, I can really see that carrying over into his time at the Newcastle Knights. So look, if I'm a Knights fan, obviously they won the Wooden Spoon this year. I'm very optimistic about what the future holds with Dylan Brown. So yeah, if I'm a Knights fan, I'm very, very happy. Yep. Anyway, back to the game. Look, at the back end of the first half, it looked like Tonga they were treading water a little bit there. I was like, geez, the Kiwis could break open before halftime. And then in the second half, well, obviously we mentioned about Eli Katoa and the HIAs that he had. And then after halftime, Tonga got their first try to Dimitri Vayamanga. That the Tongan crowd went crazy then, and it was just like you could hear the singing and everything through the TV as well, which was absolutely awesome. Like I absolutely loved seeing that. It was so good. Some of the details around this game, and obviously the Kiwis, especially with their defence, I thought they were quite aggressive with their defence, especially around that sort of midfield. And it did force Tonga into a couple of errors. They probably didn't adjust on the run as well as they should have with that jamming defence. Obviously, when you go to the line, you got your back rower there and your fullback out the back. The Kiwis were just in their face every time. So they kind of needed to change. They needed to change that up on the run, and they just weren't able to do that. The Kiwis obviously, would go on in the second half and just basically put it all to bed. Chance scored a try. Dylan Brown scored his own try, and then Tamate Martin set up Phoenix Crossan for his try in the 70th minute. But yeah, obviously the final score was a big one. It was all in favour of the Kiwis, 40-14, and it was probably what everyone thought. There was probably a little bit of hope there that Tonga may have been able to win, but I think most money or most people would have been betting on the Kiwis to sort of win, I
think I want to ask this question. What do you think Tonga now have to do to improve? Because I think they've a bit disappointing the way that they've performed this specific championships. Yep. I think people had high hopes with obviously the names that they have in the squad now. What do you see they need to improve on?
Yeah, look, it's a good question because I think I love the Tongan team. You look across their team, they have a stack side, especially their middles, and they've always had a strong middle forward pack. Like Adam Fanua-Blake, Mo Fotuaika started on the weekend. Obviously, Eli Katoa, Kuli Kefu Finafuiaki made his Tongan debut, and obviously you got the amazing Jason Tamalalo as well. So this forward pack is absolutely phenomenal. And their backs, Lehigh Hopewadi, Daniel Tupou, Paul Alamodi, Will Penasini, Sione Katoa, Isaiah Aongi, and Isaiah Katoa in the halves. That's a pretty impressive team. But they made more errors, and like I said, they didn't adjust on the run to how the Kiwis were playing the game. The Kiwis, every time there was a sort of a fast break or a change in possession, the Kiwis were just moving the ball. They moved the ball a lot. They were prepared to attack the Tongan team. Obviously, the conditions were really, really positive for attacking football, with the Kiwis being able to score 40 points. But look, what do Tonga need to improve? Yeah, look, obviously they went 0-2 in the Pacific Chance. No wins this year. And I don't actually know. You know what I mean? I because it's hard, because actually I feel obviously they need to adjust better on the run, right? But also their defense needs to improve. When you concede 40 points, especially their defense probably on the edges, some of their decision making as well. You know what I mean? So, the Kiwis I think have been fired up because, like I said in the podcast a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the support coming out of the Pacific tends to be for Samoa and Tonga and not New Zealand. So I think the Kiwis internally probably feel like, hey, if you don't want to support us, you know what I mean, we'll show you on the field. And I think that's fired them up. I really think it's fired the Kiwis up, and that's why they've played the way they have. Now they play Samoa next week. The final is at Combank Stadium. So it's New Zealand versus Samoa in Western Sydney. I thought the game should have been at Eden Park again, to be honest. I really was gobsmacked at why the final was in Australia and not in New Zealand. But, yeah, look, I think the Kiwis win next week against Samoa.
Big call.
Remember
how the first game went? It's pretty tight.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. It'd be a good game. It'd be a great game. Payne Haas, you know what I mean? Payne Haas.
Just for the sake of it, I'm going to go Samoa.
Okay, I love that. I love that.
Score predictions?
I'll go Kiwis 24-10.
I go Samoa 22-18.
All right.
Bang, in a close
I love that you just don't agree with me all the time because it's fun. You don't want to boring and just be like, yeah, I agree.
I also
I
want
agree
to see Samoa win. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, well, I actually qualify for the Kiwis, so I have a little bit of Kiwi in me. Anyway, let's move on. I actually do.
I'm back out of retirement.
What do we got next?
Free agency.
Yes.
Contract updates.
Let's
a
have a
lot
look.
happened in those last 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
first up, David Clemmer off to St. Helens, leaving the Dragons. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why.
David Clemmer off to St. Helens. Obviously, time in the NRL is over. We just played at the Dragons, played at the Tigers, played at the Bulldogs, played at the Knights, the Journeyman. His time is up in the NRL. He's heading over to Super League for St. Helens for 2 years. I think it's a handy pickup. I think he'll be great over there. 2 years for him. He's got young family as well, a bit of travelling and a bit of footy. So, wish him well. Obviously had a fantastic NRL career, a lot of games. Australia, New South Wales. So that's pretty big news for him. What do we got next up?
Probably the biggest one out of the week. Ron Abbenhausen leaving Melbourne. Announced that he will leave and with no real clear direction of where he's going.
Look, if am I buying that? No way.
Taking a break.
No. So saying that he's saying he's taking a break from professional sport and just sort of seeing what's happening. Man, I don't know if I'm buying that, Pappy. I don't know if I'm buying that. I don't know if I'm buying that. Serious. If that's me, I don't think I would ever get out of a contract without having another contract ready to go or sorted, or what I know, what I've spoken about what's going to happen next. So, Puppy, come on, what are you doing, mate? The big question is, does he stay in the NRL or does he head to R360? Obviously, he was very linked to R360 and whatever, and maybe he's doing it this way to, I don't know, control the narrative of how it kind of all plays out. I don't actually know, but I'm interested. Obviously, had a fantastic career at Melbourne. A premiership winner, Clive Churchill medal winner. Obviously was hampered with a couple of injuries over the past couple of years, but played some awesome footy and really exciting rugby league player. So we'll see what happens, I guess, with Puppy. But let us know, what do you think? Where's he going to go? Drop us a comment. I'd love to see what you guys think, if he's going to stay or is he going to go. So,
What do you think?
I think he goes R360.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so too.
All right, next.
Lockie Ilias to Titans.
Lockie Ilias leaves the Dragons, heads to the Titans. Look, gets a fresh start. I think this is a great move for Lachlan Ilias. I think, obviously he was only played the 6 games, I think, for the Dragons this year, then spent the rest of the year in New South Wales Cup. Played phenomenal in the New South Wales Cup. Took the Dragons to the grand final. Was really consistent there. Didn't really get a run in first grade. He needed to move on to another opportunity, another environment, different coaches, and I think he'll thrive. I think he'll get a clean slate, and that's kind of what happens. Sometimes you need to change and be coached by different people, different environments, and I think Lockie still has so much more to offer. He's still very young in his career. Like, how many games? Can you just check how many games Lachlan Ilias has played? Because I still feel like he's learning the game, like developing. Like, he's not a finished product yet. You can get this guy, give him the coaching and the development that he needs. Like, he could be your proper starting halfback in, next year, the year after. He's played, 60 NRL games.
Yep.
So in the whole scheme of things, like, that's not a lot, because they say you don't become a real NRL player until you've played 50 games. So, he's definitely still developing, has so much more to offer. So I think it's a good move for him.
Do you think we'll see more or less TikToks now that?
Hopefully more. Hopefully
starting?
more. I would love to see more Lockie Ilias TikToks. Tell you what I'd love to see? Lockie Ilias playing well on the Gold Coast and then just TikToking after a win. Just TikToking after a win. Like, wouldn't that be great? I'd love to see it. Let's do it, Lockie. Come on, mate. Give the people what they want.
One leaving the Titans, David Fafita to the South on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, this is pretty big news. Obviously, Fafita and the Titans, the marriage is over. It's been a crazy 12 months for David Fafita. Like, from when he went from signing with the Roosters to backflipping on the Roosters to then recommitting with the Titans and then falling out of favour with the Titans, being injured, barely playing, now being released from the Titans, moving to Souths in 2 years. Like, that's crazy. And that's what I mean over the scheme of like an NRL career. Like, it's not all rosy. Like, there's tough times. The last 12 months has probably been a really tough time for David Fifita personally, mentally, about what's happened, the fallout, maybe the treatment that Des gave him, didn't play him, played him off the bench. Then he got injured. Like, that's really tough mentally to sort of manage. So David Fifita at his best, there's no doubt he's one of the most damaging, destructive back rows in the game. And I think it's a good thing for him to get a fresh start. And hopefully Wayne Bennett can bring out the best of him. I saw that highlight of him running over like Cody Walker and them two like chirping up now that they're teammates. And I would love to see more of that from David Fifita next season.
Love it. Bunty Afoa to the West Tigers.
Yeah, back fence Bunty off to the West Tigers. This is going to be weird. I've always just known Bunty as being a Warriors player. Obviously, with the big hair, he's absolute awesome fella, Bunty Afoa, but it's going to be a bit weird seeing him at the West Tigers, but look, happy for him to secure his future. With the Tigers, I think it'll be a handy pickup. Obviously, it's always great to have the depth in the forwards. Bunty Afoa, he's played 145 NRL games so far in his career. He's going to add a lot of depth. Obviously, played some test football as well, with the Kiwis and yeah, like I'm really excited for him to secure his future.
Panthers sign Tom Ale and Kalani Going, both on 1 year deals.
So Kalani Going and Tom Ale, yeah, look, Tom Ale, this is a huge signing for the Panthers. If you're a Panthers fan, like, man, you have got an absolute dog. This guy kind of fell out of favour with Andrew Webster so far this year. He's played 42 NRL games so far in his career, and he's a beast, man. Don't be surprised if you see this guy in the Panthers team week in, week out with his aggressive nature, the way he runs the ball, his physicality. Kalani Going obviously played a massive role with the Panthers in their New South Wales Cup season this year. But look, Tom Ale, like, man, I'm a big fan of Tom, and just keep an eye out on Tom because he's going to be a beast.
Last one, Turbo extends for 1 year.
Turbo extends for 1 year. So obviously, dispels the rumours of him going to Super League and obviously the handshake deal that kind of fell through on the money and whatever happened. They've come together, and I think it's great to see. Obviously, still kind of waiting to hear about what happens with Jake and his future, but to see Tom stay, obviously it'd be interesting to see where they're going to play him, over the next year, over next season and the next year. But yeah, obviously good for Manly fans, good for NRL fans that Turbo gets to stay in the NRL for an extra season.
Next up, new segment.
Let's go.
Six again,
baby. Ding, 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 ding. When you hear the siren. So we just come up with a new segment, 6 again, where we just come up with 6 random questions that we think you guys may be interested in. And Victor's going to fire them at me, and I'm going to do my best to give you guys the best answers that I can.
Right, first up. If you could make one change to the game as NRL CEO, what would you do?
That's a great question off the bat, Victor, by the way. Look, if I was NRL CEO, I would make heaps of changes, to be honest.
Okay, we asked for one.
I'd make that many changes, to be honest. I'd change the short dropout rule for first, but that's not my actual one. What I would do is I would change the way NRL players are allowed to kind of negotiate third-party deals and, their own IP and to create money outside of the game through their image and their branding, with things obviously like the names on the jerseys to selling players merch with like club colors and logos and things like that. Like you look at the NFL, they do such a fantastic job at like just going after, the culture with merch and in the NRL, we have like a lot of restrictions on that thing because the NRL want their slice of the pie and the clubs want their slice of the pie. So, why don't we just come up with a pretty decent agreement for all of us? Like the players are the ones that, like obviously the players and the clubs, their logo, but then the clubs are owned by the NRL. So, well, they're the ones, the NRL pays them basically to keep them alive. So look, I would change a little bit around that with regards to how players can make that sort of money, outside of the salary cap, which is open to all players. You know what I mean? If you got Reece Walsh white t-shirts with Walsh and a 1 on the back and a Brisbane Broncos logo on the front, or a big Bronco with Reece Walsh or whatever, you think about how many they're going to sell. Like, there's more money for the Broncos, more money for Reece Walsh. Like, if he signs off on the deal, likes the terms of the deal, likes the percentage, the cut that he's getting, because some of the cuts with the things they do at the moment, the NRL, like, they're not even worth the player's time. They're awful. That's one thing I would change. Obviously, like I said, there's so many more things that I would change. We'll keep there. We'll maybe keep another one for
the next 6.
For maybe
that can be a constant 6
for the next 20 weeks. All right. Anyway, let's move on.
What Pacific Test match schedule would you like to see moving forward?
Oh, this is another great question. Look, I no doubt there needs to be more Test matches, and I think does a mid-year Test make sense between Tonga and Samoa? Because I'm not 100% sure it does. Obviously, because of the guys playing for Samoa, playing for New South Wales as well. But do I think we need more Test football? Like, because I see more of the guys, and they're always like, "Oh, we want to play more Test football." So, it might the Kiwis playing. Obviously, we used to have the Anzac Clash, Kiwis versus Australia, but I think there's no doubt we need New Zealand playing maybe a little bit more, maybe the one mid-season game or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think there's so much up in the air. We said obviously we've got the World Cup next year, so we know how that's going to play out. But NRL clubs hate the World Cup because it just ruins their whole preseason. They reckon because it goes for so long, players come back, after Christmas, they're overweight or whatever. They just kind of complain about that stuff. So yeah, look, I don't know have the exact answer right now, but I think it needs to change to what it has been.
Who do you think will be the first Perth Bears signing?
I think it's going to be Toby Sexton. Toby Sexton's going to Catalan for next year, but I think there's probably something in the background at the moment where he signs for Perth and becomes their first signing, because obviously he's going to the Super League, so it's not a massive kind of thing. If he goes to an NRL team, then an NRL team knows he's not going to be there for the following year, and if he plays bad, they drop him because he's going to Catalan, so he's going to be over there. I think that's what happens.
What are your thoughts on players being able to sign from November 1 with rival clubs before the ball's even been kicked?
Yeah, look, this is something that I think frustrates a lot of fans, because obviously some players, especially the big name players, like, you look at the last big notable one, obviously when Stephen Crichton left Penrith, he signed with the Bulldogs about now, you know what I mean? Very, very early on, before a ball had been kicked from the following season. And as a player, when I've got my players hat on, and you guys know that I'm very, very aligned with the players, it is great for players to be able to secure their future without having to put themselves out there and the risk of injury, and to get paid now. Like, my next 4 years are sorted before I even have to go and play. Once you start playing, obviously the risk of injury and not being able to play, you know what I mean, it rises. But I also feel like a bit of a potential window may be beneficial and hype up like what's happening. But I love the flexibility of being able to sign from November 1 to where I want to do, because as a player, like, that's the best thing for the players. You know what I mean? So we did work on a bit of conversation around the CBA, the last one. The NRL wanted it to be done after the season, much like the NBA and NFL. So how that would work is, obviously, if we've just played all year, players who are off contract for next year, for 26, you can, after the grand final, you can then negotiate your contracts after the grand final for next year. That's what the NRL wanted. And that's how they do it in the NBA. But, like, it's just very different for us in the NRL. Obviously, we're not on NBA salaries. there's a lot of guys who are on the minimum wage. Let's just say if you played, we did that after the grand final. You've got your kids in school. I know you've got a young kid who goes to daycare or preschool, whatever, and all of a sudden you're off contract. You get signed with a Queensland team. You've got to move to Queensland. You've got to put your kids on like waiting lists for like preschools and schools and things like that. Like that just doesn't work.
Yep.
You know, you need a bit more notice so you can plan things. So,
and when you talk in minimum contract, what's the ballpark of that?
Well, the minimum NRL salary nowadays I think is about 150, but obviously you've got, you know, train and trial deals. You've got, you know, rookie deals and things like that as well, which are a little bit less. So obviously you've got your top 30, and that's where you kind of, that minimum is in your top 30, but then you've got like other guys, supplementary list, training list, you know, other guys as well. So you've got quite a big list, but the spots are differently tiered.
Okay.
Yep.
What do you think about Matty Johns buying a stake in the Gold Coast Titans?
I love it. This just reminds me of like NFL, like American sports and the ownership. Like you see Tom Brady buying a stake in the Las Vegas Raiders. Magic Johnson has a stake in like the LA Dodgers and the Washington Commanders. You know, there's a heap of sports players who have stakes in professional sporting teams. Obviously, Matty Johns is not short of coin. So I think it's this awesome idea. Like, if I had the coin, I'd be doing the same. I'd be buying a stake in something, a sports team. I'd love to.
Buy low, sell high.
Oh, I'd love to do it. Like, I think it's a great idea. And I just think it's, you know, you see Lockie has just bought a stake in the London Broncos. Like, it's going to happen more often. You know what I mean? So I'll do it one day. Let's put it out there.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I don't know which team, but we'll see.
All right. Now, last question. Now that you've retired, this is probably the biggest question you could ask ever. I think there's like 10 I've scrolled through your TikTok when I search up Chad Townsend, and I think 10 of them might be that hit on Ponga. What were you thinking when you put that hit on Kalen Ponga?
All right. Well, it's time. It's time I talked about it because it's happened a long time ago. So what was I thinking? I was very frustrated at the time. We weren't playing great. We were losing, and the Knights got a 20-metre restart, and I sort of run back and got back on the line as quick as I could. And if you watch the replay closely, like you can see Ponga actually goes to tap the ball. He moves the ball down to his foot, but then the ref goes to stop it because I think someone was in front of the 20-metre line. So he goes to tap the ball, moves off the line, and I'm just like locked and ready to move off the line as well. And I'm very frustrated at this point in the game. So I just move off the line and I just try and hit him as hard as I could. And I did not mean to like shoulder charge him as well. I just sort of braced for contact. But obviously hit him, and I think I didn't hit him in the head, but I like shoulder charged him, and like he had something in his nose, I think stopped a nosebleed, and that sort of flung out everywhere. And obviously, you know, the Knights players all sort of came in pretty quickly, and then yeah. So what was I thinking? Look, I was very, very angry at the time because we were losing and we weren't playing great, and that's kind of what happens when you're in the red and you're not thinking in an NRL game. When you're not clear and you're frustrated, like you can do crazy things, and that's kind of what I did. I got sent off and I got suspended. First time I've ever been sent from the field in my life, and first time I've ever been suspended in my life after that. The week after, like I got crazy amount of like DMs and like threats and hate and everything. And I got so much support as well. I got like 50% hate, 50% love. And that didn't worry me because I wasn't concerned about that. But people were saying to me like, why don't you say sorry and everything like that? I never said sorry, to be honest. And I was like, you know, it's part of the game. Like what happens on the field kind of stays on the field. Like, and I remember we had like a captain's thing maybe 1 year, 2 years later, and I walked past KP in the hallway. And I just said, hey, man, how are you? But, yeah, I mean, like, we're all good, I think. I don't know. I'm not mates with him. So it was like a big thing at the time. Obviously, because it's such a big hit and highlight, people love talking to me about it and love asking me about it. So I was like, I'll finally address it. I finally addressed the situation. And look, I think Kalen Ponga's a fantastic player. I'm a massive KP fan. I never said sorry. So KP, if it helps, I'm sorry about the shoulder charge. But, we were just trying to compete to win the game, and we weren't winning, and we ended up losing the game too, actually. Then I got suspended, and I was like, what the hell? And then I put like a statement out during the week, like on my phone. I just recorded myself and just sort of said, oh, hey, you know what I mean? Like, this, and this, and whatever. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. But obviously, every highlight is like, there's so many like little TikTok pages who just talk about it, and
that's going to be in your highlight reel for a while.
I'll take it. I mean, I have to. This is part of when you play 15 years in the game, stuff happens, you know what I mean? So you just have to, you live with it, you move on, it's just part of the journey.
It's good publicity now.
Part of the journey, you know what I mean? You feel? So, that's how it is.
Fair questions.
Let's go. Move on. Last segment, fan questions, and then we're done.
Who do you think the Cowboys should sign for 2026 in their team? Or where do you see they need improvement in that squad?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not signing anyone for 2026 for next year, but I think the Cows will make a big play for, I think they make a play for a half back or a 5'8" over the next year or two. I don't feel like they've given Cliffo a fair go over the past couple of years. They've given him 1-year deals for the last 3 years in a row. And I just feel like that to me says the club doesn't fully trust Cliffo. And Cliffo's played great for the Cows, over the past couple of years. I'm a big Cliffo fan, but from what I see from the outside, like I don't actually know. I just feel like when you give someone a 1-year deal to stay, you don't give them multiple years. You don't really invest in them in the future. So I think they might make a play at a halfback to, partner with Tom at some stage. And they just re-signed Griffin Neem as well, which is a massive coup for them. They've got Reed Marnie going up there as well. So, we'll...
So you're saying that Purdue-Dearden combo just not going to work for next year?
I think they keep Jacko in the centres. From what I saw from Jacko this year, I think he stays in the centres. I was a really big fan of putting Jacko to 6 and seeing how he would go, but it just, unfortunately for him and the team, I don't think it worked, and that's why they put him back there. So, it will be interesting to see how that all plays out, to be honest.
Yep. Okay. Do you think the Dragons will land a big fish in recruitment?
Yeah, well, they need to. They really do need to. They need to attract some players, and like their biggest signing, in the past 12 to 24 months has been Valentine Holmes, but they need to improve their marquee guys, like their top paid players. They need to attract a big fish. So I just feel like I'm not sure which forward that is. Like Jaden Sewer has an option to stay. Whether he takes that up or he checks the open market. Obviously, you've got Cookie and you've got Gutho who are getting older. They need to attract someone who brings eyeballs. Valentine Holmes brings eyeballs. They need to attract like probably a big name half, a big fish, or another forward to complement their young guys. They've got some great young players coming up, and I'm really, really excited to see how they go. I'm optimistic with them and their future. I've said that. I think Michael Ennis is going to add a lot of value to their team with their coaching, and we'll see where it all lies.
Next up, what's your favourite type of kick during a game?
My favourite type of kick, I always enjoyed it's a kick you see. It's probably the most common kick in the game, just the high kick to the corner to put pressure on the opposite winger. If you can make it a contest, that's where you kind of want that to be. So, I always enjoyed, I guess, on the try line as well, either the early kick with the fullback out of position either on the grubber on the ground for your back rower, or the chip across field for your back rower to kind of contest the ball. Jeremiah was excellent at that. We had a great combo on the deck or in the air, and in 2022, he scored 20 tries. And I think 10 of them or 12 of them were off my kicks. Like, it was crazy, for sure.
Hardest person to defend in the league?
Hardest person to defend, probably Payne Haas when he's skipping overs, running at halves. Kickow, he's hard to defend one-on-one. Who else is there? I mean, the big boys don't really come out that way. Adam Fanil-Blake is so hard to tackle as well. He's Nafahu White, he's hard to tackle. Man, every forward's hard to tackle, to be honest with you, especially when the big boys come out running wide. Angus Crichton's hard to tackle as well. Yeah, they're all hard.
Standard of officiating in the NRL now compared to 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's definitely increased. It still needs to continue to go. But I always say this, I think, like, a lot of the time the referees are under instruction from the commission or the ARL about what they need to police. So they're kind of like the middleman. So I just feel like the NRL or the ARL or whoever's making those directives to the referee, they're the ones that need to be clear around what the expectations and how they want the game ruled. Because I'm that over getting to bloody Magic Round, and then they focus on something where they're focusing on this round, and they focus on it for 4 weeks. They get to Origin, they ref Origin completely different. They get to the back end of the year, they might focus on one more thing. Then we get to the finals, and all those focuses just out the window. That's the trajectory of how the season goes, I'm telling you. And it's frustrating as hell for the players and for the fans. Sweet.
That was the last question.
Thank you very much, Victor, and thank you guys for tuning in to today's podcast. I really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, drop us a comment down below. Really appreciate it. And if you're listening on the audio platforms, a quick rate and review is greatly appreciated. It helps out the podcast. Like I said, we've got that much more content coming for you guys. Content's going up, and we want you guys to be on board. So we'll see you guys on the next episode. Let's go.